So thank you everyone for joining the first in what I hope to be a long series of Lawrence University Career Center podcasts. My name is Ty Collins. I'm an advisor in the Career Center. Very excited today to have our very first inaugural guest on the podcast. His name is Josh Dukelow, class of 2002, majored in history, and he's currently the host of Fresh Take with Josh Dukelow, heard every morning on WHBY radio right here in Appleton. And between graduating Lawrence and today, he's had a varied career, which included a stint working at Lawrence and running for Appleton mayor. So Josh, thanks for joining us today. Your career trajectory is very interesting, and I think shows the diversity of options available to students with a liberal arts degree. Can you talk about the various stops on your career path and discuss what led you from position to position?
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me to be the first guest on the series, Ty, and for that kind framing of my varied career. Yes, I have had a lot of stops along the way, and I'll start, as you said, I graduated from Lawrence in 2002. When I graduated, I was not yet ready to be a full-time worker, and so I found my way to a graduate program, which was a master's program in public affairs at the La Follette School at UW-Madison. So I spent 2 years earning a master's degree, and following that got my first post-educational job in state government. And even just in the 3 years I worked in state government, I had 4 different jobs. So moving around within an employer as well as between employers has been the hallmark of my career. And it's always in a pursuit of me finding what I feel is the right fit for my skill set and for my personal passions. It wasn't state government. And so after my years in state government, that's when I actually moved back to Appleton and started working in the development office at Lawrence. Some of the folks listening to the podcast may have had coffee or lunch or welcomed me into their living room when I was visiting alumni during the More Light Capital campaign, which was, I worked at Lawrence from 2007 to 2011. And that, of course, was the previous successful capital campaign. Lawrence, of course, just finished another capital campaign. So once I wrapped up working in the Lawrence Development Office, I worked for a while for the local Habitat for Humanity chapter. I worked in economic development for the Fox Cities Chamber of Commerce. And I also worked as it was sort of a grants writer and program developer position for customized training programs at Fox Valley Technical College. It was while I worked at Fox Valley Tech that I was also running for mayor of Appleton. And it was during that run that I actually had the opportunity to negotiate and secure my position as host of Fresh Take on WHBY, my first and only experience professionally in broadcasting. And they just dropped me right into a meaty time slot there, 8:30 to 11 a.m. And the show focuses mostly on the kinds of things that I spent my career learning about, which is government, politics, local economic development. We do cover some national, but mostly it's state and local because I find that that's what's not out there already. And part of what I wanted to do with the show is give people something they can't find elsewhere. So that's really what motivated me to do that. And I've been doing that since May 2nd of 2016. So coming up almost on 5 years.
You mentioned the right fit. I use that phrase a lot when meeting with students. Everyone in our office does. Could you maybe describe what that means to you? And do you think you have found the right fit in your current job?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it is a phrase you hear often and doesn't necessarily mean the same thing to everybody. When I talk about finding the right fit, every job I took, I thought was going to be the right fit. There was something about it that made me think that was the thing I should be doing. And then over the course of that work, I would discover one, sometimes many elements of that job, that position, that organization that I didn't enjoy. And so when I think about finding the right fit, I would think of it as sort of listening to that little voice in your head that's telling you, like, this is right, keep going. Or, I really don't want to do this. You got to discern, right? Am I just being lazy? Am I just, encountering resistance? But you'll get a sense, I think, or at least I got a sense in many of my jobs, like, okay, there's this piece I do like, and then there's this piece or these pieces I don't like. And I would come to a point where I'd realize, okay, I want more of the things I don't have now. And then I would begin searching for something that gave me more of that thing. So I'd like to think I wasn't just blindly hopping from opportunity to opportunity. It was really a pursuit of getting more of what I wanted in my work based on the experience I'd had in a previous job. And I'll give you a quick example. When I worked in state government, it was a lot of processing forms and, just paperwork. But one piece of my work was to present at a conference each year. And at that conference, I was working in person with local government professionals on how to manage this program that I was working on. And it was that interpersonal interaction that I loved so much. And so I thought, okay, as much as I like government and stuff, I like the interpersonal stuff more. And so when I left government, I was looking for a chance to do more with people, which is what brought me to fundraising at Lawrence. And that was a great fit. And then I realized I wanted a little more government involved. And so then moving in different places over different times. And I feel like in this current position, I have found a really appropriate balance between the interpersonal and the more sort of technical elements of my education, the government, the history, the politics. And I can blend those really nicely along with the communication skills that also come from a Lawrence education to be able to reach out to the community, educate people, engage in conversation, and also highlight Lawrence as part of my programming.
Which we appreciate. We should note that the day of this podcast, we announced our new 17th president earlier this afternoon. So it's an exciting time at Lawrence as we get set to welcome her to campus this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be looking forward to a chance to interview the new president. Absolutely.
We will get her on the morning show. We will really try to do that. So I think as we look back at those past jobs, there's definitely been, a common thread between them, things that have been consistently liked and maybe some things disliked. But if you were to kind of generally say, this is the one thing I've always enjoyed in my jobs, do you feel it was a calling to public service or a desire to somehow improve the community? Because those are things that a lot of Lawrence students are interested in.
Yeah, I think it's both of those things, Ty. I think public service and also positive change are two things that I have often cited as elements of my personal mission. And one of the things I've talked more about in that regard is problem solving. And I really like to apply my skills and abilities to trying to solve some problem. And, when I was working for Habitat for Humanity, that was putting on the best fundraiser possible to secure the resources to help partner with families to build homes for them. Whatever that role is, I'm trying to find the best way to solve the problem. And I've always been drawn into large, sticky, complex problems, oftentimes in the public sphere, whether those are economic development challenges or public policy challenges. In the current role I'm in, I feel like I've got an opportunity to question lawmakers, to raise issues and highlight events that are influencing our community, and then also to convene conversation. I make a point in my show, I often tell people I do talk radio, but not that kind, because often when I say talk radio, people think of a very specific kind of product, and my show's not like that. I really strive for all opinions and perspectives to be welcome and respected. And that's not, I'll say, not always easy to deliver on, but that's the promise of the brand of the show. And I think that's also somewhat of my personal brand that I've tried to develop. An open mind. I don't believe nothing, but I'm also really open to being persuaded, and I want to hear what people have to say. And I chalk that up to my liberal arts education.
As a fellow communications professional, there definitely could be a little more balance, I think, sometimes in the media in terms of different opinions and different perspectives. And so I'm glad to hear that you're open to those, because sometimes it feels like a lot of people definitely are not.
Yeah, I actually have cultivated a pretty loyal following among people who will point that out, that, I don't agree with this caller, but I'm sure glad I heard that opinion because I know it's out there. And in my normal media, I wouldn't have been exposed to something like that. And so it is, it's hard to ask people to tune in to be challenged, to have their views and their priors challenged, because most people don't want to do that. It's an easy business model in the media world to just cater up what people are looking for and have their priors confirmed. And so, of course, given that I'm a Laurentian, I'm looking for something a little more challenging than that. And so, again, not always easy, particularly given what we've been through as a nation in 2020. I was broadcasting through all of that, including 3 months of it on my sofa in my living room, which was a unique challenge. But all things that I've learned from and really excited about as far as being able to do these things for a community like Appleton and the Fox Cities in Wisconsin that I really love and care about.
You do a morning show, so you do get up early in the morning. So my question was going to be, what does get you up in the morning? What do you look forward to? What is your life purpose, so to speak, if we can call it that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The thing that gets me up in the morning is thought-provoking conversation. The tagline to my radio show is conversations to get you thinking, not tell you what to think. And to me, it's really important that we have our views challenged. And I am constantly seeking out perspectives, opinions, commentary that makes me think, wait a second, I don't necessarily agree with that, but why? and what can I gain from this, and what can I take away from it? Again, values that were definitely instilled in me by my liberal arts education at Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
And that really has grown into like a personal mission for me, whether it's running for office and really trying to engage people in the nitty gritty detailed conversations of what it means to lead a city or a community, or it's, taking phone calls about, hey, Governor Evers said schools should start early. What do you think? Well, there's a lot of opinions and a lot of attitudes you could get on that. And I love it all. Again, I am more interested in talking with someone I disagree with than having a conversation with someone I agree with, because as I've told people before, if we agree on everything, we can't learn from each other. And that lifelong learning, I think, is embedded in this passion I have about seeking out challenging perspectives and having those conversations that get me thinking, because that thought combined with my natural curiosity is the motor that drives my pursuit of lifelong learning.
And looking back at your Lawrence education, is there a certain experience or set of skills that you feel most influenced your direction? And it sounds like you feel Lawrence did a really good job preparing you for the world of work.
I definitely feel like Lawrence did a great job preparing me for not only a job, but as you said it, Ty, the world of work. Because I graduated in 2002, a lot has changed about the world of work in the last almost 20 years, and even more will change in the next 20. And I think liberal arts as a model of education is uniquely suited to preparing people for that changing world, where you're not walking away with a competency you apply in a job, but you're walking away with a set of skills that prepare you to gain competencies and develop skills and do more new things that haven't been invented yet, right? We're going to be ready for those things as Laurentians. And I think that is a really unique gift. Something like freshman studies it's not always a pleasant entry experience for everyone. But the longer I get away from it, the more I value what it did for me, which again was really get me thinking about things that I'd never had to think about before. Even if that thing I was thinking about was, how do I write 7 pages about structure of scientific revolution? Come on, right?
Yeah.
Some of those early challenges I look back to now and really see as formative experiences in my life. Not so much nearly failing out of the physics department. That one was not so much fun. But it took me a little while to find my way to history. I originally was going to be a physics major. And even just that process, that was really helpful for me. I think it has manifested itself in how I look at my work, right? When I was a physics major, I was okay, I like this. I don't like getting D's. I'm going to need a different major. When I'm in a different job, it was, well, I like this, but I don't like this. I need to find something else. And so that ability to guide my own education in some respects, but that constant affirmation of curiosity and the spirit of learning that permeates all of Lawrence. I mean, I love sharing the anecdote. As a history major, I took, I don't know what number it is anymore, but historiography is one of the capstones for the major. And I was not buying it. I didn't buy postmodernism. I didn't buy like all of these theories that we were supposed to be learning about. And so I'd object in class. I was kind of like the devil's advocate on so many of these things, but I wasn't faking it. I really just didn't buy this stuff. And there was more than one time that a few classmates and I would find ourselves out at the clock outside main hall after class was over, continuing the conversation afterwards, not because we planned to. It was not like it was my best friends and we were on our way home. Like we were just so engaged in the intellectual conversation we'd been having, we didn't want it to end. And that is to the get what gets you out of bed in the morning question, but also what Lawrence has done for me question. I think that really is it. It's instilling and cultivating that fire to keep learning. And even something like the seminars that happen at Bjorklund in most summers, they haven't recently due to obvious pandemic concerns, but I've been able to take advantage of some of those seminars, and that's the same thing. It's just an opportunity to get your mind stimulated on something you wouldn't encounter in your everyday life, meet some new people, encounter some new perspectives, and I can't get enough of it.
And you'll be happy to know that at least until COVID, those outside the main hall discussions still occur following a class. So that's one of the things I really like about being here too, is just getting to hear that those discussions and those viewpoints. It's really kind of a unique, special thing.
I think so.
Is there something that you know today that you wish you'd known as a student?
Wow, that's a great question. I think when I look back in this and say, okay, if I knew then what I know now, the thing I keep thinking about is in college, I think it's easy to get hung up on the name brand of your degree, the name of your employer, the title of the job, the paycheck, right? Some of these things feel like they're going to be so important, especially for that first job out of college or getting on the right track. These are important things, but they're not nearly as important as they seem at the time. Being able to look back now, almost 20 years since graduation, and see all the different jobs I've had and all the different mistakes that I've made. I mean, Ty, I will tell you, I have been fired from more than one job. And I take that not as a point of shame, but as a point of pride that I found something I didn't like, or I spoke my mind, or whatever it was. And every single time I found myself in that situation, I got myself to a better situation. And that's something else that I think is important for people who are starting on a career journey to realize is a lot of what happens to you is your own doing. You make your own luck. You create opportunities for yourself. Obviously, I had access and privilege that other people don't have. Other people had access and privilege that I don't. I mean, we're all coming from a unique background, and I don't mean to say that everybody can just get it done if they just try hard enough. That's not my sentiment at all. But I do think there's an element to which we have much more control over our future than we sometimes think or want to believe. And I feel like my career progress to this point has affirmed that for me, that you can make mistakes and you can recover. You can have enormous successes, and that doesn't mean you won't make a mistake again soon. The contingent nature of our lives and our future is something that is really driven home the older that you get. And if I was 22 and I could have a good handle on that, I think I would have been much better off. Although it might not have taken me where I am now, so I'm not going to go wish away the past.
Oh, absolutely. I think back to the beginnings of my career, and I had definite mistakes that I kind of look back on and what was I thinking? But it led me to where I am today. So
yeah,
it's all part of further development as a person and as a professional.
Absolutely.
So in June, we're going to see 300 plus Lawrence students graduating, completing their journey. And for all of them, the last year and a third was not how they expected it to be. Obviously, that coincides with the COVID crisis. Graduating into this uncertain world, what advice would you give those seniors?
This may sound odd, I'll explain, but I think the advice I would give, especially to this year's graduating class, is enjoy the ride. Because we never know what's coming around the next turn. And even when it feels like we're in a moment of pain or despair, depression, adversity, there are elements even in those moments that can lift us up, that can teach us something important. And it's easy to get distracted from all that stuff if we're focused on what's coming next, or what we should be doing, or what we'd rather be doing than what's actually going on. And so I think the advice I would give to graduates right now is enjoy the ride, be in the moment, don't get too caught up with what could be or what should be or what might be. Really be focused on what is and make the most of that, because in a kind of abstract way, it's all we have is what's happening in the present and in the moment. And so being present for that, absorbing that, appreciating it, and making the most of it is, I think, the best way to ensure happiness in our life day after day.
That's really great to hear. Josh, I want to thank you again for joining us today on our first Career Center podcast. You can listen to Josh every morning, Fresh Take with Josh Dukelow, 8:30 until 11, WHBY Radio, of which there are a number of ways to listen, WHBY.com, 1150 AM and 103.5 FM. Thanks again, Josh.
Thank you, Ty.